Okay. Uh, Everybody can hear me okay? All right. Let me know. Give me a countdown. We want to welcome you to our Sunday school hour this morning. We have a guest speaker. We have Chris Grandstaff, who is the marketing director of the Dothan Rescue Mission. So he is going to be talking to us about the Dothan Rescue Mission, giving us an update. And if you've got any questions that you want to ask at the end, feel free to do so. So without any further introduction, introduce Chris Grandstaff.
Well, good morning. We got them spread out. I have to look everywhere. That's all right. It's always a joy to get to come and speak to y'all. I hope you know that. This last, I guess, almost 2 years now that we've been dealing with COVID, it's been a different experience for us as well as y'all, and it goes from the public eye to the churches as well. I don't know if y'all had to shut down for any point in time or, maybe 2 Sundays. So it wasn't too bad for y'all. I know the church I attend, we shut down for, I won't say 3 to 4 weeks just to make sure, and then we've opened back up. So it is a joy, but I want to start back for maybe some people that don't know everything that we do at the mission. I'm going to start back at the very beginning of the rescue mission, when it was formed. Now, we're going to do something a little different in here this morning than I normally do. At any point in time that you have a question about anything I say, raise your hand, and I'll stop in the middle, and I'll answer your question. So we'll do it informal this morning. Is that okay with y'all? So anything y'all have, y'all got a question about, just raise your hand. I'll see you, and I'll address that question, and then we can have them at the end too. But the rescue mission was formed in 1979 by Mr. Frank Williams. It was a little house on Apple Tree Street, and it was a housing, and they had a soup kitchen there. So he stayed with us till 1983 when Harry Colbert came in as the director. Harry Colbert is the one that started the first store on Foster Street, which is a thrift store. He started down there. Mr. Harry stayed with us all the way into 2004 when Brad Hardy took over as director, and Brad Hardy is still with us today. Brad Hardy is also the pastor at Kensey Baptist Church. Therefore, I'm allowed to come speak to you instead of him because he's actually preaching this morning as well. So he would love to be here. He loves to do this as much as I do. He did say, my name is Chris Grandstaff. I am the marketing director. I've been with the Rescue Mission since 2009 as the marketing director. So enjoyed every minute of it. In 2001, most of the current buildings, if you come to the Rescue Mission, were built in 2001. The administration building, the current Women's Lodge, the Family Lodge, and the chapel was all built in 2001. In 2010, the current Men's Lodge was constructed. So we opened that up in 2010. So that kind of gives you where we started from to kind of the building processes of where we are at now. We consider ourselves like an 8-cylinder engine. Anybody familiar with engines in here? You have 4 cylinders, you got 6 cylinders, you got 8 cylinders in your engine, and when one of them goes down, it does not drive well. If 2 of them goes down, most of the time it don't drive at all. So I'm going to give you the actual 8 cylinders of our rescue mission, and then I'll talk about each one. So you have the administration building, you have the Men's Lodge, you have the Women's Lodge, you have the Family Lodge, you have the chapel, you have the warehouse, then you have store 1 and store 2. So there's your 8-cylinder engine, okay? At the administration building, if you call over there, most of the time you're going to speak to Lisa. Lisa has been with us, I would probably say 20 plus years. She's been there a long, long time. She'll be the one that answers the phone. She helps on a day-to-day basis people with rent, clothing, utilities, medicine, transportation. She helps the day-to-day activities of the rescue mission is what she does. So if somebody comes in and they say, hey, we don't have any clothes. She fills out a voucher for them. They come to the store, which would be store 1, and we fill that voucher of whatever they need. If somebody says they need household items or furniture, same thing applies. They give them a voucher, they come to the store, we meet that need. That does not cost them anything there. That's meeting the needs of the public eye. If somebody says they need food to eat, then we split off, and there's two different ways that we do that. We actually have food baskets that we give out several times a year that we can just give them food to carry home and they prepare it themselves, or actually they can come eat with us. You do not have to stay with us to eat with us. If you're struggling, you can get a meal ticket and eat lunch and supper with us every day for a week. And then the next week, if you still need to eat with us, just get a new meal ticket and you can continue to eat with us. With that being said, since we do that, we have to go through the Safe Serve classes just like anybody else in Dothan would, whether it be Outback or Conestoga or whoever restaurant you'd like to attend. They have to go through Safe Serve classes. So me and Brad Hardy did that several years ago to get certified, and that was probably the scariest I've ever been, is going to get certified in cooking. Because it's not just about cooking, it's about cleanliness and diseases and everything that, happens when you cook. What has to be, clean here, and you can't put this on there since this has already been meat, and didn't know anything about that. But the book was about that thick, if you've ever taken the class. And the one I went to, you study one day and took the class the next. And I'll be honest with you, that did not sit well with me. Excuse me for saying this, but my theory in school was it's better to cheat than repeat, because I just wasn't the smartest student, but I like to have a good time. So kids, do not take that advice if you're in school, that my philosophy on that. But I did like to have a good time in school, but we made it through there and we passed the class, and that's how we, continue to operate and serve the public as well as the people staying with us. Any questions on what I've said so far? See, no hands raised, but I'll stop at any time. So we talked about the administration building. Men's Lodge. It's a 60-bed men's lodge. Right now, currently, I may have told you wrong, we have 19. You got a question? Go ahead.
Tell us the general location around town of each of the buildings.
Of the lodges?
Of each location.
Okay, perfect. Everything sits on basically 2 blocks in downtown Dothan except for the stores. And I'll give you the address of those in a minute when I look down. I can tell you 2210 and I think 3783 off the top of my head, but that may be wrong. So I'd say the old Eagle Eye building and the old Food World building would be the 2 locations of the stores, behind Patricia Lanes on the south side of town, and then the old Eagle Eye building on the top by CC's Pizza. A lot of people know CC's Pizza, so with the location of the stores. Downtown, it's by about maybe 2 blocks from the Civic Center. It sits between Crawford Street and Appletree Street. Does anybody, that's probably the closest I can get you. There's Metro Music down there that's close to us. We're the music store. There's a coffee shop down there. Vaughn Towers, anybody familiar with Vaughn Towers? So it's over there in that neighborhood as well, but it sits on Crawford Street. The men's lodge is on one side, and then everything else sits on the same block. So good question. And you're free to come visit anytime. We're open for tours and stuff. Just let us know when you'd like to come for that. Men's Lodge is a 60-bed. 19 currently are staying with us. The classes are on hold, and I'll go through that as well. Classes are used to be computer classes, GED classes, life skills, discipleship classes. And how that normally worked is we would have I was telling him, we had a pastors or ministerial staff that would come in, and I would give them a verse to teach on. So we taught on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So the ministerial staff would come in and they'd teach for 30 to 45 minutes on a certain verse that I gave them. It was specific to my lessons as well. And then once they got through, I would come in and apply how that specific verse went to the life skills of actually, what's going on in real life, how to apply that. And I teach probably 45 minutes on that as well. Those have stopped as well for the mere fact of COVID. You see that I said we can house up to 60 and we have 19. That's really because we're going every other bed in the men's lodge and the family lodge and women's lodge because of that, to keep the 6 foot in there as best we can and not allow too many people in there at one time. A couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, we went to open it up as need basis, and as soon as we start doing that, I guess the virus changed names or whatever, another strand of it has come out. I don't get too involved with that, but so we've kind of had to limit it. The Women's Lodge has 26 beds in it, and right now we're currently at 5 for 2 reasons. One is we're still separating them as well. There's this, in the Men's Lodge, it's bunk beds and 16 beds per room. In the Women's Lodge, every little room is set up a little bit different. So there may be 2 beds in a room, there may be 5 beds in a room, 4 beds in a room, so we kind of spread them out a little bit different. But one of the reasons is we're remodeling the bathrooms in there. We're redoing all the showers, the commodes, all the kind of stuff in there to make it more suitable for the women. And I say suitable for the women is because that was originally the Men's Lodge. So they, you know, we need to change that up a little bit, and the showers and stuff, like I said, is from 2001, so we're remodeling that right now, and once that gets, we could add a little bit more because of the room space in there. Family Lodge will hold 14, and right now we have 2 families staying with us. I did not get a number on exactly the kids, how many kids that is, but we have 2 families staying with us, and that kind of separates in between. There's 4 rooms over there, so we kind of separate that as well. Kitchen and chapel, last time I was, go ahead.
What's the eligibility for lodging?
Speak on eligibility. Like, how do you get to stay there?
Right.
You just come in and say, you know, you need a place to stay. They give you a piece of paper to fill out, and you check in. Very simple process. We do the ID check to make sure you have a, you know, you are who you say you are, and then you're able to check in.
How long can a family or a person stay at this lodge?
If you were to ask the question like that when you get there, they would tell you 2 weeks because we want everybody to, you know, to kind of start doing their best, but there's no time limit on that. We've had them stay 2 weeks, and we've had them there for 4 or 5 years. Maybe longer, but there's stipulations on that. So if you're doing everything you can do to get back on your feet, we're not fixing to tell you you got 2 weeks or 2 months. If you're working to better yourself and, you know, you got fines to pay or you got to build up your first month's rent or whatever the case may be, we're not going to say, hey, you got to leave in 2 weeks or 2 months if you're trying to do everything you can do. Also, you have mental, people with mental diseases, and they're not capable of being on their own. So they stay with us. We've had those several times. The family is worn down. They can't deal with it anymore. There's no place for them to go, so they come and live with us. You just can't put a time limit on that. We feel for those, and we work hand in hand with the hospital. We do get several mental patients, and we work with the hospital. We work with their families from getting medicines right to making sure they're taking their medicines to do everything we can do for them. But some people just end up staying with us for a long period of time, and so we're not going to let them go or turn them away because of that reason. So did that answer your question on that, of how that works? In the kitchen, who's familiar with the kitchen? Who's volunteered at the mission? 2, 3, 4. So did y'all volunteer at the kitchen, the chapel? Y'all may call it chapel or the kitchen. So that's also, last time I was here, I think was in June of last year, and we said we were remodeling and in the process, and we still are remodeling in the process, and we're just doing a little bit at the time. We slowed that down for the process, one, because money's changed a lot during COVID with the stores and everything else, but also being able to get the stuff that we need to get in there, that slowed down. But we are still in the process of finishing up the kitchen on the remodel. Chapel, I will be honest with you, I don't know. I know they started back chapel, but I cannot tell you at this present time if that has stopped or not with the rise in the cases here recently. And you say, why don't you know that? Well, the reason I don't is because I've not been at the office in over probably a year and a half. When COVID first got bad and we opened back up, I went to the stores to help the stores. They lost several employees that were just had a fear of COVID, and that's fine. They just decided they did not want to work. So I have been at both stores at different times managing the stores and letting the managers of the stores actually become employees of the stores and work in departments to fill in the need wherever they be. So if we didn't have anybody in the women's, one of the ladies would jump in women's till we hired somebody. If we didn't have anybody in linens or whatever the case may be, the managers jumped in there and filled those positions so we could keep the stores up and running. So I took all the managerial duties at, I think I was at store 1 first, and then I went to store 2, and now I'm back at store 1, and hopefully, cross your fingers, tomorrow morning everybody will show up and we'll be at full staff again. So that is my hope, that they hired one, I think, Friday, and that will make us full again. So I will give it a couple of weeks to make sure they're trained in doing their job right, whichever it is, whatever department they put them in. And if everything works there, I will finally, after a year and a half, get to go back and do my job. So I look forward to that, because this is one of the things I do look forward to doing. When you called me, was it Thursday? I think it was Thursday around lunch, and asking if everything's ready to go, I had no clue what he was referring to. And I had to explain to him the reason why is the director took vacation on a Monday, and then maybe on a Tuesday because he had a board meeting. So he was gone, and when he was coming back in town Monday, I left on vacation with my family. My daughter was fishing the national tournament in Dayton, Tennessee. So she made nationals this year, and we went to Dayton, Tennessee for a week and let her fish up there. So on Lake Chickamauga. So I got back on Saturday from the tournament, and this may be good or bad, according to how y'all view it, but then I moved her into Auburn on Sunday. So I got home, and I cried my eyes out, believe it or not. That girl has spent every weekend with me fishing since she was in 6th grade. And to turn around and let her go and live by herself was not something Dad was ready for. Now, Mom was fine. Mom, she didn't spend it. I mean, she was there, but she didn't have to sleep. When she fished for Headland, we got houses. And since she was a girl, they didn't put her in there with all the boys. So they put her in Dad's room. So we slept in double beds or twin beds pretty much every weekend together. And then my wife and other daughter would come on the weekends to see how we fish. So that was a little bit different for me. Struggled. So we took her some more stuff yesterday. So she is at Auburn, and she's a lot more happy than I am. Let's just say that. She's ready to go. So that's the reason I did not know about this. We've been in passing, and he's like, will you be able to? Yes, I love to come speak. I love to get back to doing what I used to do. One of the things that, from teaching at Headland, several of the schools will call me to get to speak to the kids. I absolutely love that. Love speaking in different churches as well. So, again, thank you for this opportunity. The warehouse, that is a 15,000 square foot building. We acquired it in 2014. The warehouse, if somebody donates clothes to us, or purses or toys or belts or shoes or cardboard, and it's just not something we would sell in our store, but it does not need to be thrown away, we box that up or bell that up. Boxes for everything except for clothes. Clothes are belled up. And the clothes are in 1,250-pound bells. And then the boxes, I've never weighed a box, but, a box of books is heavy. So we take that and send them to third world countries. So nothing goes to waste. That's kind of our mission on that. So we try to make sure we're doing the best we can with everything that's actually donated to us. So we always try to make that clear, because if we say bell it, we don't want anybody to think we're throwing anything away, because we don't. It takes so much to run off of. So Lee, who has been with us for years and years and years, I think he retired and still came back to work with us. He used to be a men's lodge manager, and then he started driving the truck. If you ever call for a donation, he used to come pick up it on the truck, and now he's actually running our warehouse. So he actually bails the clothes and stuff like that for us. So it's a great program that helps us benefit to make. You get like 5 cents a pound or 12 cents a pound for your goods. It's not a lot of money, but it's enough to, that we're doing well as, for other people, I guess is the biggest thing. You're doing mission work as well. Store 1, 20,000 square foot building, and it makes up about 50% of our funding. In 2007, I told you the first store was started in 2003, but in 2004 or in 2007 it moved locations. So that's where we're at now, and that's 2210 Ross Clark Circle. I did get that address right a while ago. 2210, the thrift store there. That's the South Side store. And then store number 2 is 14,000. It makes up about 30% of our funding. And we actually opened it in 2018, and that's 3736. I don't know if I said that a while ago, but I may have been close on that. Maybe I said 36 and got the first part right. But that store has been doing exceptionally well. We were in the old movie gallery building, and it was like maybe 5,000 square foot, and just didn't have enough room for us to work in the back, because a lot of what we do is in the back versus what you see in the front. It takes a lot of room to sort through stuff and sift through it, and we just didn't have the room. A lot of the employees worked outside in the hot or the rain or whatever because they didn't have a storage room there. So that was a blessing for us to be able to acquire that building. We looked for it for many, many years, and the guy just would not sell. And finally, he decided to sell it, so that's when we purchased it. So we are happy for that. I'm going to give you some stats from 2020. And again, this is COVID-related numbers. I would say some of these numbers are a quarter, some of them are half, some of them, maybe above average. But just 2020 stats, we provided 8,921 beds in 2020. That's down because of COVID. We had to cut the number down. Meals served was 22,663, so that's 663, but that's down as well. Normally we'd be closer to 40,000 on the meals, which you have more people there, you're going to serve more meals as well. Clothing provided, we provided for 316 families. That probably is up just a grunt. Furniture provided, 14 families. Food baskets was 3,169. We helped 318 families with utility bills, and miscellaneous help was 57 families. That's where you get the rent, the medicine, transportation. We just classify that under miscellaneous. Any questions on any of those numbers or so far? Y'all don't be quiet on me. Go. I got 2 questions. Or did you try to talk her into asking the same question? No, go ahead.
When you say beds, do you mean each night counts as a new bed?
Each night counts as a new bed. Yes, ma'am.
I was just going to ask about that. You bail things, so people drop off donations at 2 stores.
That's
where they do the sorting.
mm-hmm.
And then some of it will go to the warehouse and some of it will go on the floor.
Yes, we would love for everything to go to the floor, but that's sometimes not what gets donated. Men, we are bad to wear our clothes out before we get new clothes. So men's clothes would probably get bailed more than women's clothes. Women, I taught a class called Love and Respect one time. Have anybody ever heard of that class? It's a great marriage book, by the way. You're laughing. You must have not liked the book. But the first thing got me on this book was it was talking about how men see things versus women seeing things. And it said when a man says he needs something new or he don't have anything to wear, it means literally he has nothing to wear. But when a lady says she has nothing to wear, she has nothing new to wear. So it's just same sentence. It's just how we view things right there. So, I want to talk to you about a word and value. As a noun, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering to ask, in light of COVID, when you get donations of clothing, and you said that you also put some of them in your stores, and then others you send to third world countries. Are there any protocols that you have to take for sanitation or COVID precautions with those types of things?
There's not. We actually have a company out of Atlanta that we send everything to, and they'll go by the guidelines set forth by the other countries. So for us, we partner with them. We send everything to Atlanta. We've been up there and a couple different times. They have it's like 200 to 300,000 square foot warehouse. One of them is for everything but clothes, and the other one is for just clothes. And that's how big both warehouses are up there. And what they do is there's somebody in the office there answering the phone from the third world countries to who needs it. And then that's where they'll send it. That's where that stuff goes. So it's not all going to the same third world country every time. They meet the greatest need for that country. So they have to go by the guidelines set forth for shipping it to the third world countries. And some of them it's how it's containered, boxed up, whatever. Some of it's, totally separate than that. So they have to go by all those guidelines there.
How about for the ones in the stores? You have to take any COVID precautions?
We don't. I would say everything is cleaned the best possible, except for probably the clothes. So, like, we're wiping down buggies and counters and doing the floor pretty much every day. We bought a machine maybe 2 years ago. It runs and cleans the floor, and we sanitize the floor. But as far as sanitizing a garment on the floor, no. If it's a miscellaneous item or a toy or shoes or books, those are all wiped down with sterile stuff, whether it be a Clorox wipe or something like that. Those are all clean, but clothes, no. Yes, ma'am.
Who calls from the third world country? Is that churches that call from over there? Or how?
There are churches, but a lot of time it's in the government officials. From what I understand, I would not know this lady that sits at this desk, and I'm just talking about the lady that I know. I cannot tell you how many languages she knows. But they call, and they have a communication line, so I'm going to say it's more the government side of it that needs stuff. Now, then they're sending it to whoever needs it. I don't think it's actually directly affiliated with a church, but the churches may distribute the items. Does that make sense? So if they're struggling, one may say, hey, we just need clothes. And that's all they'll send that to them. I know that there are times that they need certain types of clothes, shorts, or, they don't need a lot of long pants and jackets in third world countries. It's hotter over there. So, but other places, they do get colder, so they say, hey, we're low in jackets this year. Send us jackets. So the company in Atlanta will take our clothes, because we do not. They'll take our clothes and they separate it. Kids' shorts, and it will be separated: girls' kids' shorts, boys' kids' shorts, girls' jeans, boys' jeans, and I say jeans, that's long pants. And then ladies' pants, ladies' dresses, ladies' shorts. It's all separated that way in Atlanta. Girls' shoes, boys' shoes, it's done by sizes. So when they call for it, that's how they ship that to them. So it's a very detailed process, but they have a lot more people to do that than we would. So we just bundle it in a Gaylord box, and a Gaylord box is something you buy watermelons out of or cantaloupe at the grocery store. So we put all the shoes and purses and stuff in there. So toys is the same way. We can't send like big toys. They have to be like a foot or less. Now we do that for them, but we don't separate anything else. So yes, ma'am.
Is it cheaper for them to ship things overseas in large amounts? Because it seems like it would cost a lot to send a tiny package to a friend.
Yes, I would say that a normal shipment of stuff that they would buy would be 40,000 pounds. So it'd be a container. A tractor trailer load, you see a tractor trailer, a 18-wheeler driving down the road, that's normally about a 53-foot box on the back of that truck. That's normally a container, is what would ship on the boats to go overseas. So 40,000 pounds will go on a truck. So that's kind of how I'm basing it off of.
So not the U.S. Postal Service.
No. Then everybody be out of business. No, I'm just kidding. So, did you have a question? Okay. All right. So I was talking about the word value. And as a noun, that means worth. And as a verb, that would mean important. And a lot of people that are homeless have lost those. And that's at the mission of what we try to instill. And I thought, how can I make an acronym out of the word value? And hopefully this helps kind of break it down a little bit to you. V, I chose the word variety, because there's a variety of reasons that people actually become homeless. The number one reason that people would guess would be drugs and alcohol. Normally, that's not the reason that somebody becomes homeless, but it's things that people do maybe once they become homeless. Does that make sense? Normally, they're numbing things. If I can take the alcohol or take the drugs, I don't have to think about what's went on. Some of the leading causes would be death, divorce, domestic abuse, mental. Those are some of the major reasons people may become homeless. So there's a variety of reasons. A, accept the fact that they're homeless and can no longer help themselves. They need us. L, listen. We need to listen to be able to help them. We're so quick, I say we, are quick in to be able to tell somebody how to fix themselves. Men, we're fixers as a whole. That's how we're known, as a fixing thing. But to listen to them. You would be understand that there is hope through Jesus. That's one of the things we try to do, is teach them that there is hope for them through Jesus. And E would be empower them to become an asset to the community. And that's kind of how we base our stuff at the rescue mission, is to find the reason they become homeless, work with them and listen to them, meet that need, and make them and help them become an asset to the community. A lot of people, when they become homeless, they're like I said earlier, their families lost hope in them, lost belief in them, and they really don't feel like they're important anymore. So whatever we can do to instill that self-worth in them is what we try to do. What would you think homeless would look like? Any guesses? Cardboard box. Somebody else. A tent. A car. Hotel. Did you say bridges? Okay. What if I told you it looks like you and me? See, we're so quick to judge the outside, but they're individuals just like you and me. And getting to that point to where you understand, we understand, not y'all, but we understand that we can kind of start changing the outlook. We do everything we can for the people that are in school. And I'll tell you a story of a kid who got kicked out of school because he had friends at school, and we dressed him like the people in school, but he got in a fight on a school bus when the people that were his friends made fun of him because he got dropped off at the mission. See, they had no idea he looked just like them, but they bullied him when they saw that he was homeless. Got in a fight, got kicked out of school. They look just like you and me. This is something I did when I got to teach at Headland, and a couple of, I guess it was last year, maybe the year before. And I asked them, I said, let's play a little game. I want you to close your eyes just for a minute. And I want you to think, what would you want someone to see in you if you were homeless? What would you want someone to see in you? The next question that I have is, how do you know if someone is homeless? And the answer to that would be a lot of times you don't. You see them in schools, you see them where you go to work. Most of them are not going to raise their hand and say, hey, look at me, I'm homeless. I mean, they're just not going to do that. We talk about tents, yes. We talk about bridges, correct. That's places that they live, cars. How many people would you say are estimated homeless in Houston County? 500? Somebody else? 300. What's that? 300. Houston County. 2,000? Okay. It's over 1,000. So you're not, I don't know if it's 2, it's just over 1,000. And of those numbers, that is off the people that raised their hand and said, hey, I'm homeless. So how many people didn't raise their hand and say, I'm homeless? I'll give you a number that in Henry County schools, I'm going from memory now, Henry County schools 2 years ago when I taught, there was an estimated 65 homeless kids in Headland or Abbeville. Okay? That does not count for you living in your grandmother's house for the weekend and then your friend's house the next weekend, and they don't count those. So you really don't have a house to live in. You're just bouncing friend to friend to friend to grandmother to whoever you can live with, which is really considered homeless as well, but they do not count those numbers. I do not know the number for Houston County, although I probably could, but it's an alarming number of actually how many people are homeless. The next thing I want to talk about is investing in teens. And I don't know if y'all are teenagers back there or older than that, but when I taught at Headland, there's 16 million people in the U.S. between the ages of 13 and 17. 2.5 million of those are homeless. To break that down even further, that's about 1 in 30. So, how old are you back there? Are you in school? You?
22. 19.
Is anybody in high school in here? Nobody? Hey, I'm a long way past high school. You in high school back there? How many is in your class, buddy?
I'm homeschooled.
That'd be just you then, right? But, all right, so my mom would have never done that. So, and she was a principal and still wouldn't have me. No, but in schools, you have 26 to 32 in Dothan City, I think, in the schools. That means 1 out of every class on the average. Does that number alarm you? It's a lot more than you think. Dothan, Alabama, Houston County does a very good job of the homeless in this area. They've cleaned up a little bit of the tent cities, taking down some of that. That just means they move somewhere else, but they kind of hide that as best they can. You don't see a lot of the cardboard boxes. I think somebody said that around Dothan. The cars you will see if you know how to look for them and stuff, but it is a very big problem. COVID has not helped us to be able to house as many as we'd like to house. But it is an issue that I love to address, and I love to see people get the help they need and become an asset to the community. So,
It is, in fact, unfortunate that you do have homeless folks. But I need to ask you, are there homeless scams in this area where you see the guys on the corner that says, little cardboards that says, I'm homeless, and looking
Sure.
But is there, I mean, do we know whether or not there are intentional homeless scams out there?
I do not know for a fact that there are homeless scams in Dothan, Alabama. But as sure as I'm sitting here, I will probably tell you that there's homeless scams in Dothan, Alabama. Okay? Because I've never went up and asked one of them or found out. But here's, as a homeless person, you're going to do, one thing I've learned, you're going to do anything or say anything you can in order to survive. With that mindset, I would say yes. Here's how I recommend dealing with such. If you see somebody on the side of the street holding a sign, blah, 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 it can be male, female, kids, whatever the case may be, point them to us. Go see the Dothan Rescue Mission. They'll help you. Call 211. They'll help you. They can get the help. And how you know if it's a scam or not is that they don't go. Because if they need the help, they'll go get it. Does that make sense? If they need the help, they'll go get it. But if they're just wanting to make money off of you or me, so anytime I see it on the street, most of the time I'll stop and say, hey, go see the Dothan Rescue Mission. We can help you. Whether that be getting a shower, whether that be clothes, whatever it may be. That's the way I would say deal with it, is point them to 211 or the Dothan Rescue Mission and let us reach out to get the help that they need. You know, I'm not going to tell you it's a bad thing to buy one food if he says he needs food. Would I give money? Under no circumstances. But if you bought them food, I mean, hey, you bought them food or a drink or whatever, but we give that to them for free if they come to us. And that don't cost you a dime. Does that make sense? I mean, you are helping them. You are showing compassion to them. You're doing everything they can to help you out. I would not recommend getting them in your car and driving them to the rescue mission for the mere fact of if they don't get what they want, I don't want them tied to you. Does everybody understand that? So if you take them down there and they don't get what they want as far as whatever they may need or want, then, hey, where are you going to take me next? Just send them to us and we can point them. One of the beauties of what's happened in the last year is, I cannot name the name of it because I cannot think of it because I've not been in the office in a year and a half, but we now have a software program that we are working with all the other nonprofit agencies in the area. And several of the churches, if not all the churches, are tied to it as well. So we're cutting the scams as well, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'll pick on you down front. Say you come in and you need help with your utility bills. That's no problem whatsoever. We're going to do everything we can to help you. But when we type in your name and your social security number, it will tell me every place you've been that's given you money before you got to us. Or if we're the first ones, we type it in there. So if they go over and see another church, or they go to the Columbia Baptist Association or the Catholic Social Services or whoever they may go see, they can see, hey, they just paid your whole bill. Why are you here for me? All right? Because what that does is it gives them credits. And how that works with the city is they don't see what you're giving them. They only see when you come in and says, the Dothan Rescue Mission is going to give X, which paid my bill. Then they come back and send us a bill at the end of the month where we just write them a check to pay for that. But what if the CBA turned around and gave them the same amount and now they got a $280 credit? Well, that's $280 the Columbia Baptist Association or SABA or whatever its name now could have helped them with somebody else that's actually had a need. Does that make sense? So we are all working and pulling together to help that process now. And that's been done in the last probably year and a half. Don't?
Is the program Charity Tracker?
Maybe. I think that's what it's called. It's been a year and a half, but I think that's what it's called. All I know, it was no fun going back from 1979 to 2021 on paper copies and putting it all in the computer. Like, that was no fun. And you think, well, all you got to do is enter a name. No, because some people have been there 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 10 times, and you got to type in all that so you can get everybody can see the full history. So, not fun. Not fun at all. So, any other questions? I know I'm short on time. Go ahead.
Do you have any protocols for people come in, to prevent things from spreading, bugs in particular? They have,
Like bed bugs? I don't do bed bugs, but yes, everybody when they come in, they go straight to the showers, and all their stuff is washed and dried. I'm just hey, but and you think and we laugh about that, but it's really not funny because if somebody comes in with bed bugs, do you know how you get rid of bed bugs? You treat them, but in order to treat that, everything has to be thrown away and everybody has to leave. So if I move them all out, that does nothing for us or the people that's actually homeless. So that's the steps they go through as soon as they come in. So yes. Go ahead.
So you said that there are many homeless people in the county, and it sounds like you have a very small percentage of them coming to you for help, or if they do come, it's for a short amount of time.
Uh-huh.
So what would you, I guess, maybe you don't have an answer to this necessarily, but have you all thought about or daydreamed about what would happen, what you would do if just an explosion of people came to you and more than you could handle or take in?
Well, if it's instant, like you're talking about like right this minute, then we open up the chapel and we have cots to put out in the chapel so we don't turn anybody away. But if it's like a mass number of people, we work through other agencies, whether it be the ARC that houses some as well. Either their program's a little bit different, we would contact them and we contact surrounding agencies that could house them as well. So that's not something we had ever thought of. So, but we have had to use the chapel before when we got overloaded for a day or two till you can, move them in a different direction.
Thank you. The rescue mission really does meet a need in our county. I know years and years ago when we started supporting the rescue mission, one of the reasons we did was because we were getting a lot of people that were coming to the church asking for this, that, and the other. And so we were sending them to the rescue mission. We said, well, if we're sending them down there, we probably need to support the ministry, help them, because they're really doing a valuable service for us. And so that's when we started doing it. So I like what he said. If somebody comes in, they have this need, what do you do with them? Send them to them. Well, that's what we try to do. And it's been, and sometimes we say, if they can't help you, then let them call us and we'll see what we can do or whatever along those lines. So we want to close, but we want to pray for them. Pray for Brad and Lisa in the office. And the office has been closed because they had a COVID outbreak in the office. And then we'll, of course, we'll pray for Chris and his ministry. So let's pray together as we end. Father, thank you so much for bringing this ministry into being. Thank you for Harry and his wife who headed that up for so many years, and now for Brad and his wife who are now doing that. And we pray, Lord, you'll give them real wisdom and strength as they do this. This is a hard work. Pray for Chris and the other staff members who are all making this possible. Father, we pray that you would use this as a means of reaching people for Jesus, as well as meeting their physical needs of shelter and food and clothing. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to be the hands and feet of Jesus as we reach into Dothan, Alabama. Be with us now as we go from here. I pray, Father, that you will use us for your glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, you are dismissed.